Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Jonathan Voico.
Good morning.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Ooh, the 4th of July is almost upon us, and we celebrate our Independence Day.
Yeah, July 1st is the real day. Canada Day.
Why is it all so close? Why is like the Thanksgiving and then the Independence Day, like they're all so close? What the heck?
Yeah,
What's going on?
Yeah, but we don't have an alien invasion on
That's right.
Canada Day.
We've got to mark the day when Dave Pullman will get into a fighter aircraft and save the day. Bill sorry.
Pullman.
What did I say?
Is Dave his young son? Is that Sentry?
No. I forget the son's name. Anyway, whatever. Who's going to see that's coming? But more importantly than a day away from July 4th, which is fine, we're 5 days away from Superman.
That's true.
That's really more of the bigger deal.
That's what I call a close encounter.
5 days away from Superman. Anyway, guys, most importantly, of course, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show a part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of topics that we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, well, that's when we take your live comments and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or an issue you'd like us to discuss, as long as we in the room deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on in, and we'll get around to answering it in the second part of the show. The good news about the tip link, though, is that it's actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you happen to be listening to our show on our podcast feed, either on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your favorite podcasting app of choice, or if you happen to be watching the show later in the day when we're not live, you can still send in a topic or a question. And if you send one in when we're not live, again, as long as we deem it appropriate, we'll just address it on the next episode. All right. You know, last night I went to my first wrestling event. That I've gone to since WrestleMania a couple of years ago. I went to go see the AEW event in Ontario, California last night. Got to hang out a bit with our buddy Nigel McGuinness, former Ring of Honor heavyweight champion. It was a fun night. It was a pretty fun night. But they were advertising the hell out of Superman. It was all over the place. Then they popped up on the big screen David Cornsweet and Nicholas Holt with two of the champions in it, like they're holding the belts and stuff like that.
Wow.
For it. Yeah. I didn't realize this, but I guess AEW is kind of like partly owned by Warner Brothers. So they had a big thing like that. So it was a fun night to be had there last night. If you watch AEW Collision on Saturday, you may even see me. It's because I was there.
The marketing for Superman,
It's nuts.
I went in to get an ice cream cake at Dairy Queen for a birthday. We're celebrating family birthday. Superman is everywhere. There's a Superman blizzard. There's Superman on the doors. People magazine. I went to buy dog food at the grocery store last night. Superman was staring at me from the cover of People magazine.
You know, so we talked about it a little bit on the show a few weeks ago, but I had heard that this will be Warner Brothers' biggest marketing spend in the history of the studio. And I believe it. Superman is everywhere. Like, they're doing everything they can to get awareness of this movie out there. And, I mean, they're trying to build for the future. So
It's not 89 Batman, but it is something else.
yeah, that also did a lot to promote the film. Anyway, guys, let's get things moving here, shall we? And we're going to start off today with this. You know, one of the best shows on television, got nominated for Emmys, all that kind of stuff, has been The Last of Us. I love it. I know not as many people completely love season 2. I don't give a crap. I loved season 2. I didn't think it was as good as season 1, but I loved it. I thought it was great. Now, this show has been run by Craig Mazin, who produced and showran and wrote arguably one of the greatest single seasons of television, I'll say it, in history, with Chernobyl.
Yeah.
So Craig Mazin has been running this show along with the game creator, Neil Druckmann. And the two of them have kind of been running it for the first 2 seasons. Well, yesterday a story came out that Neil Druckmann is now stepping away and will not be really involved in season 3, as he's going to focus on, well, his main job, which is running Naughty Dog, and the next video game they have coming out. This comes from the folks over at Variety, who write the following. They say this: Where'd it go? Here it is. Neil Druckmann has announced he is stepping away from The Last of Us TV series at HBO. I've made the difficult decision to step away from my creative involvement in The Last of Us on HBO, Druckmann said in a statement posted on the official Instagram account for Naughty Dog, the PlayStation-owned video game studio behind The Last of Us franchise. With work completed on Season 2, and before any meaningful work starts on Season 3, now is the right time for me to transition my complete focus to Naughty Dog and its future projects, including writing and directing our exciting next game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, which they've been talking about for a long time, along with my responsibilities as studio head and head of creative. Co-creating the show has been a career highlight, he continued. It's been an honor to work alongside Craig Mazin to executive produce, direct, and write on the last 2 seasons. I'm deeply thankful for the thoughtful approach and the dedication and talented cast and crew took to adapting The Last of Us Part 1 and a continued adaptation of The Last of Us Part 2. All right. As somebody who has deeply loved the first couple of seasons of The Last of Us, my first reaction to it was, oh no, like they're splitting the team up. The more I thought about it though, and I remember once during season 1, you said something along these lines, Rob, but the more I thought about it was that the real television writer is Craig Mazin. And I think having Druckmann there as the guy who created the game to really kind of be the moral North Star of the spirit of the show's going to go, and Mazin to then bring it to life and flesh it out and stuff like that. Now that they're 2 seasons into it, I guess I would question whether Mazin would really need Neil there anymore, now that they've totally got the direction set and all that kind of stuff. The other thing to me is also this. Neil's got a full-time job. He's supposed to be the head of this studio. Now, I'm not getting political at all, but from a business point of view, it kind of reminds me a little bit when what's his name, Elon Musk, was doing all of his Doge stuff. Meanwhile, the shareholders of Tesla were going, we have a company here you should be dedicating your time to. We have a company here you're supposed to be looking after and running and navigating, and you're spending all your time over there doing that. Whatever you think about that, regardless, just from a business point of view. And with this new game they keep announcing, and the fact that he's supposed to be creating, writing, directing it on top of, as he reminded us, being the head of studio and the head of creative. You know, I've never done that job, Rob, but I bet it's a fairly time-intensive job. I'm guessing if I had that job, I wouldn't have time to do something else.
I think you're probably correct.
I'm going to go on a limb and guess it's a pretty tough job. So at first I was kind of disappointed to hear about it, but it does kind of make sense. And I think they can probably move on just fine. Anyway, Rob, you know, you were here when we found out about this. What's your first impression of Neil Druckmann stepping away?
Well, first of all, you know, if you are a video game creator, video games really, cinema and television, I think, is the art form of the 20th century. I think gaming, while it began in the 20th century, is going to reach heights we can't even conceive of even now in the 21st. And I think that Druckmann coming on board and helping shepherd The Last of Us seasons 1 and 2 into existence. I mean, season 1, I think, was a bona fide, brilliant year of television.
Yeah. Oh, it was incredible.
But the fact is, unless you're in love with the process, making films and television, making them, is not exactly the most exciting job in the world. It is a long, meticulous process that is full of sitting in rooms editing. And if you're not, I love editing. I can sit and edit for thousands of hours at a time. Some people, a lot of people, aren't really built for that. And I can understand there's no more really Neil Druckmann could do. They already know where they're going. And it's like, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet or whatever. That sounds pretty big to me.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
I mean, I
love the name of it.
Yeah, and I think that a guy like Neil Druckmann, his forte is the video game world. I'm sure that's what he loved. And working in a company like Naughty Dog, I don't know his history, but working his way up and being a game creator at the pinnacle of that industry, and every game that comes out is going to be more innovative. They're going to do more interesting things. It allows him to scratch that creative itch. I mean, he already did The Last of Us, and turning it into another medium is a win. So it makes a lot of sense to me. He's like, "This, you guys got this. You don't need me anymore." I think you're right. I think it's like he did what he had to do, and he's going to go on to greener pastures. Well, he's going to go back to his green pasture because Naughty Dog's, one of the pinnacles of the industry, and go make something astonishing. I think that's what creative people should do.
Yeah, and again, time to go back to work. Time to go back to your job.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like they finished the work on season 2, and really season 3 is just the extension of the second game already. They've already got everything laid out. So is he really needed to be there right now? And the answer to that, as long as you still got Craig Mazin, then the answer to that is probably no. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? One of the two co-showrunners, Neil Druckmann, the creator of the game itself, is stepping away for Last of Us Season 3, but Craig Mazin is still there to run the show. Are you okay with that? Are you excited for him going? Are you excited for the new game they're going to be making? However you feel about it, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? What is a spoiler? So it's a question that gets brought up a lot. Well, one of the difficult things for movie and TV fans is the fact that nobody has the same definition of what a spoiler is. And we've talked about that before, right? Like, to some people, finding out the specific thing that at the end of what is the I See Dead People movie again?
Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense. At the end of Sixth Sense, finding out that Bruce Willis was dead all along. To some people, that...
You just ruined it for how many people?
By the way...
A generation that hasn't seen it?
Rosebud is a sled.
God damn.
Hate to break it to you, Rob.
A slut?
A sled.
Oh, I thought it was a
and
completely different
Charlton
movie.
Heston was on Earth all along. Just thought I'd let you know that. But
I can't believe you just
to
said
some
that.
people, that is the threshold of what a spoiler is.
Right.
But to others, this is not hyperbole. I've literally had this happen. Where I say, there's a scene in the movie where this known star of the movie and this known star of the movie are having dinner. Literally. That's all I said. And I got some people complaining to me that was a spoiler. I don't want to know about what happens in the movie. But these two people are in the movie. I'm just saying there's a scene where they're sitting down having dinner and talking to each other. I'm not telling you that. No, that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler. So the talk of spoilers with fandom is always going to be fraught because people have totally different definitions of what it is. Here's what I've always kind of defined it as. And listen, we've all tripped over it sometimes. Absolutely. Everybody has. But my definition is kind of this. If a filmmaker or studio publicly puts out information and makes it publicly available, that is no longer a spoiler.
Right.
For example, when Disney, as an extreme example, when Disney puts out a trailer and it's got Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the new Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, Hugh Jackman being Wolverine is no longer a spoiler. The studio has publicly made that available. It's information. About a year ago, we did a story about there was a director who was at a comic convention and was asked a question on stage, and he gave a really interesting answer that revealed something. And so, the director publicly said it in a public forum into a public space, and we did a story on it, and I still had people complaining to me that it was a spoiler. Because they were like, well, I didn't see that story.
Right.
Well, just because you didn't see it doesn't make it a spoiler. Anyway. So an interesting thing happened. Yesterday, we did some stories about Ironheart. We did a story about Ironheart and the big splash that Mephisto made with Sacha Baron Cohen playing Mephisto, right? Now, this led, as I went through the comments on it, and by the way, it should be pointed out, Jonathan was scrolling through our live chat yesterday. Nobody said anything about that because everybody knew at that point Sacha Baron Cohen was Mephisto.
You had either seen it or you didn't care. I mean, it's a
seen it,
very
didn't care,
small
you knew it.
minority that falls somewhere outside of that diagram.
Now, so we put that out, but I go through the comments, and there are a number of people in the comments angrily going, John, You just spoiled it for me. You remember, this was on public television the night before.
Right.
But, John, you spoiled it for me. You spoiled that Sacha Baron Cohen is Mephisto in Ironheart. I want to show you something. Take a look at this story in Deadline. This is a story in Deadline where Deadline was reporting that Sacha Baron Cohen is Mephisto in the upcoming Disney show Ironheart. You want to take a guess? I'm hiding the date right now. You want to take a guess on when this Deadline article was?
I know.
I know you know.
I bet it wasn't yesterday.
No, I bet you it was last night because they didn't want to
That's
spoil.
right. It was last night.
Last
no.
night.
This story in Deadline, with Deadline reporting that we have learned exclusively that Sacha Baron Cohen is going to be Mephisto in Ironheart, is from 2022.
No.
Here's the story. Speculation, said Deadline, in 2022 is growing that Sacha Baron Cohen has entered the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the role in Marvel Studios' upcoming Disney Plus series Ironheart as a comic book villain. A source close to the production confirmed to Deadline Cohen being a part of Ironheart, likely playing Mephisto. He also has been spotted on the Marvel facilities located at UK Spinewood Studios. Like any other major Marvel characters, word is Cohen would appear in other projects as well. Again, this is Deadline in 2022. 2022.
Who reads anymore?
Now, I happen to then do a little Google search. And when you do a Google search, you can go into tools, time, and you can set a custom time range. I went into Google, I searched Sacha Baron Cohen, Mephisto, beginning of 2023 to the end of 2024. Dozens and dozens and dozens of outlets reporting and talking about the implications of Sacha Baron Cohen being Mephisto.
Who Google searches anymore?
On top of all of that, Rob, the official public IMDb page of Ironheart, both now and has Sacha Baron Cohen listed as Mephisto.
Oh God, the spoilers are everywhere.
It's spoilers. It is.
They're already here.
Publicly made, publicly available, publicly stated information. And then when it happened in the episode, the next day we talked about it. By the way, 5 minutes after, I'm going to see if I can bring this in here. Here we go. 5 minutes after, literally 5 minutes after the show dropped, Sacha Baron Cohen, it might be hard to see, but this one on the end there.
Oh yeah, because it's like
Sacha Baron Cohen literally put up him as Mephisto, and when asked, why'd you put that up so soon? He goes, well, everybody already knows. But again, it does lead to the bigger question about the nature and the admittedly tricky nature of spoilers. And I feel like I talk about this at least once a year, but it's worth talking about because it's a subject that kind of has failed to evolve much. Again, it is we as fans, different fans will have different sensitivities, right? Finding out two characters have a conversation in a diner is absolutely not a spoiler to some people, but to some other people it might be. Finding out that a character is in the movie, well, I literally the headline story today is Bradley Cooper is going to be Jor-El in Superman.
Oh Jesus!
What?
Now you did it again.
Spoilers everywhere.
Oh, why do I even work here?
But it literally comes. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, it literally
Me
comes
working here?
from James Gunn officially letting it be known that Bradley Cooper is playing Jor-El. But after I posted it and I had to delete the guy, this one guy went on this total apeshit on me for spoiling it. I wanted to be surprised in the movie theater.
Dude, it's not just like that.
Well, that's good for you, but the director literally came out and made it public knowledge. I think. Yeah. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Some of these people, like to your point, they're saying like, "I could never forgive you for this," and it's like, it's Ironheart, dude. 20 people watched it.
But I mean, on top of all that, while we all understand different people have different sensitivities, and what spoiler to one person is not necessarily spoiler to the other. I think the bare minimum, though, that you got to understand, and you have to know, once the studio, the actor, the director, the producer, whatever, on a public platform, publicly makes information available to the public, it's not a spoiler anymore.
Yeah, it's out there.
It's not. Once the studio makes it public, because if you say that is, well, now you're getting into this really sticky territory of, well, is something in a trailer a spoiler? Is announcing who the cast in a movie is a spoiler? Because if you say no, then why is other information that the studio makes publicly available a spoiler for us to talk about? So listen, I'm just going to let you know now. The barometer here is, I will talk about things once a studio or a director or a producer makes it public information. Once they make it public and it's out there, that's something that is fair for us to talk about. And if you don't want to know about anything a studio has made public, well, then that's on you to stay off the internet. That's not our job to keep it hidden from you. That's your job to stay off the internet. Anyway, Rob, we always, as fans, we're always having this discussion, right? And it is a tricky one because everybody has different sensitivities. What is a spoiler to one isn't a spoiler to other. What would you say, about the evolution of the concept of spoilers, but also what would you say would maybe be the bare minimum that as fans we need to kind of have to agree upon is or isn't a spoiler? I don't know.
Okay, talk about the evolution of spoilers. I'm going to take you back to 1980.
No.
Early May.
I know where this is going.
Mid-May 1980.
I know where this is going.
Okay, you know what? You will go to the Dagobah system. There you will learn from Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me. Luke lands on Dagobah, this swamp S-hole, looking around, and he finds this toad-like creature as he's looking for Yoda. What is this? And then, of course... And then you hear Ben Kenobi go, because nobody in that movie believed that little toad creature that sounded like Frank Oz, sort of, was a Jedi Master, much less Luke. I cannot teach him. When Yoda's voice changed, oh my God, it's Yoda. Oh my God. And that was a total shocking revelation. And then at the end of that movie, not to be outdone, what happens at the end of that movie? Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father, did he? He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
It's impossible.
And then one of the most famous lines in history. Those were two shocking spoilers, John. And then you know what happened? Guy named George Lucas decided, you know what? I don't care about the next generation. He made 3 movies that ruined The Empire Strikes Back. 3 movies that if you watch in order, when you finally get to watch if you're 7 or 8 years old and you get to watch when Luke lands on Dagobah and Empire Strikes Back, how could you not know one of the most famous Jedi that ever lived? He was teaching Jedi for 900 years. Luke, did you not read a history book? How? Well, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. Psh, we know what happened. You're Luke's dad. Best spoilers I ever saw in my life. I mean, the best shocking revelations I ever saw in my life. And the guy who created the thing ruined those spoilers for kids for the rest of time. They're not shocking revelations anymore.
You clearly have no appreciation for the Tread Federation.
I'm just saying that one man's spoiler is another man's shared knowledge. Like when the Red Wedding rolled around, there was always one person. Remember that party you went to?
Oh,
there
yeah.
was some guy sitting in the back going, because they read the book. Now, I think as for you, that's about the evolution of spoilers. That's my point about the evolution of spoilers. But in all honesty, John, I do think that to me, a real spoiler is if somebody tells you a plot turn in a film that actually affects the story itself. An actor appearing in a certain role, if they've announced, that's not a spoiler anymore because they put it out. But finding out that Bruce Willis sees dead people, that's a spoiler.
Well, here's how I've worded it in the past, because it's almost the way I've always worded in the past is a spoiler is a piece of information that, if given to you, fundamentally changes the way you see the whole movie.
That's a great idea.
And so, like, to your point, knowing that Bruce Willis is dead, that completely alters your viewing of the movie.
Yeah, because
it totally changes everything.
It literally doesn't allow you to get to receive the story the way the filmmaker intended. You're not supposed to know that going in. Now, here's what's really interesting. What if you have a classic film? So classic movies, I like to watch classic movies that are old enough that I don't know what happens. Like when I first watched Casablanca, I knew what it was. I didn't know this
Sure.
was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what play it. You played it for her, play it for me. I didn't know what play it meant. You know, you must remember this. I didn't know. And so, because it was
that
long
Yoda?
enough away. But in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, guess what? Spock dies.
Oh, Jesus. Today's
I-
episode.
I didn't know that when I saw the movie. I thought at the beginning, because
But his was the most human,
the
Rob.
information had come out, you know, that Spock was supposed to die. And at the beginning of the movie, they have the simulator where Saavik is, and everybody on the Enterprise bridge dies. And I'm like, oh my God, it was a MacGuffin. All of that information that snuck out when fans were going ballistic because Spock died, it was all because it was a simulation. They set me up within the movie. And then when Spock actually dies, I cried. It was the first time in the movie I cried. Second time was in The Color Purple. First time was Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, on that line that you just tagged.
This was the most human.
So if they ruin the story, I mean, if you do find out, for instance, say that, you know, Henry Cavill appears as a multiverse Superman in James Gunn's Superman, if you knew that before you went in, by the way, that doesn't happen. But I'm saying if it did happen and you knew it, maybe that would be a shocking revelation. Oh my God, the Snyder Bros and the James Gunn heads, or the gunmen, I don't know what our James Gunn fans called, they're going to both be happy because there's 2 Supermen that show up. That doesn't happen. But if it did, would you be happy if you knew that? I mean, I don't understand. I think if it really ruins your enjoyment of the film, it's a big twist. I would not have liked to have known. When I saw Sixth Sense, I didn't know the twist. And I was like, oh, and I got that whoosh that you get. The same whoosh I got, no, I am your father. You know, that's when you get that story twist, that feeling that grabs you.
Anything else? You want to tell me who Kaiser Soze is?
I was about to say, Kevin Spacey's Kaiser Soze.
I mean,
I was joking.
Barry Lyndon's being re-released in theaters to celebrate its 50th anniversary. And guess what?
Yeah.
At the end of that movie, you find out that we're all equal now.
I still remember though, like even years after it happened, like years after 19, because I was still single digits year old child, but even years after that, like didn't also Simpsons do some on that? They're walking out, wow, I can't believe Vader was Luke's father.
They did.
But that literally would happen back in the day, like because there was no Twitter. It's like it would the biggest threat area for spoilers was always standing in line for a later movie.
Yep.
And the earlier movie lets out and people talk. That was literally the main place you were in danger of getting hit with the hand grenade of spoilers. But now it's, of course, everywhere. Anyway, guys, question is for you. How do you feel about that? Where do you put your kind of threshold for when something just goes from being something general in a movie or becoming something that literally becomes something that would fundamentally change the way you saw the whole thing? I don't know. And do you agree that, hey, once the studio or director or producer makes something public and it's public knowledge now, do you agree at that point it's completely open for discussion? Or do you think it is the job of outlets and YouTube channels like mine to hide publicly available information? I don't know. However you guys see it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Just again, this article, 2022, in Deadline, just throwing that out there. Okay.
But I didn't read it.
But I didn't read it. Therefore, you should not talk about it. Anyway, with that down, guys, let's move on and talk about this, shall we? Don't know if you've heard, but there's a second Megan. The reason you might not have heard about it is because absolutely nobody has gone to see it. Despite the success of the first one. And by the way, throw me in there too as one of the fans of the first movie. I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was such a great pleasure surprise. It was a great tongue-in-cheek little horror film. You know, tongue-in-cheek little horror film. I had a blast with it. I had a really good time with it. Very excited about the second one. Second one comes out. You would hope your sequel makes more than the previous one did. Megan 1 made $30 million in its opening weekend. Megan 2 made 10. Took a 66% drop in its opening weekend, and not a lot of people are running out to see it again. And now, you know, we've already kind of done our post-mortem on it about, you know, the things that led to its failing. But now the head of the studio, Jason Blum of Blumhouse, has been asked about and come out and kind of give his thoughts on it. And I'll tell you, they are super refreshing to hear from a studio head talking about the failings of their own movie. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter that writes this. Jason Blum himself decided to speak out proactively about Megan 2.0 and Blumhouse's slump in a podcast interview with the Town's Matt Bellani, who's of course featured a lot in Seth Rogen's The Studio. During the weekend of the film's opening, he owned up to what may have gone wrong. We all thought Megan was like Superman. We could do anything to her. We could change genres. We could put her in the summer, because remember the other one was not in the summer season. We could put her in the summer. We could make her look different. We could turn her from a bad guy into a good guy. And we classically overthought how powerful people's engagement was with her, Blum said, reiterating that the audience wasn't ready to genre swap. He also admitted to being in pain all weekend. One horror producer familiar with the inner workings of Blumhouse couldn't agree more, telling the Hollywood Reporter the film's failure boiled down to hubris. They thought they were being all clever, changing the dates and the genres, the person said. Another horror producer adds, this was not the sequel audiences wanted. It was the movie the director wanted. This wasn't the movie the audiences wanted. It was the movie the director wanted. All right. Let's start with Jason Blum's comments. While it is easy in hindsight to look backwards and say, well, obviously those were all dumb decisions. I have a lot of respect for a studio guy while his movie is still in theaters to come out and acknowledge all the mistakes they made. Because normally what the playbook is, blame it on the current environment, blame it on maybe timing, blame it on something else, whatever. But Jason Blum just comes around and says, we way overthought it. We thought we could change her look. We thought we could change genres. We thought we could change this release window. We thought we could change her from a bad guy to a good guy. We thought we could do anything with this character. And we were wrong. And while the film hasn't even reached its second weekend yet, he's like coming out and saying that. And I got to say, listen, every film studio, every director, every filmmaker is going to make big mistakes at some point. I really respect when Jason Blum makes them. He seems to be very self-aware of them and comes out and says it. And as far as what that one producer said, Rob, about they didn't make the movie the audiences wanted, they made the movie the director wanted. I'm okay with that if it's the first movie.
Yeah, that's the...
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm okay. Hey, if what the audience wanted is what would have worked, a lot of people wouldn't be sitting in the audience. They'd be making films. I'm okay with making the film that the director wanted. Rob often talk about, you want a film that has authorship. You want a film that has all that, right? And I 100% agree with that when it's your first film. But once you've done the first film and you've told the audience what to expect, and you've given the audience something that they really love and now identify with and now are attached to, you can't go off the rails. You can't suddenly go, again, like Blum said, we're going to change genres, change her look, change her, make her a good guy, change the release dates, change the window. Like they just thought they could do anything with it. And now they're realizing they couldn't. So while I appreciate the idea of wanting to make the movie the director wanted, you do that for your first film, prove that it works, then you go on the second. But anyway, there's a lot of things being pointed at here, Rob. What stood out to you from the Hollywood Reporter article? And with a few more days of reflection, what really stands out to you as one of the big failing points of Megan 2.0?
Well, I think that it's great that Jason Blum is speaking the way he's speaking, because what he's doing is he's taking responsibility. He's saying, okay, but he can, because that article points out that Blumhouse has made 42 movies and they've grossed a total of $6 billion. And they're mostly low budget films.
Made for about 25 bucks.
They're making
each.
some bucks, and then they do things like they make Lee Whannell's Invisible Man, and they'll make that for $8 million. And
by the way, that movie was so good.
It was, yeah.
That was an entertaining movie.
They've had a few missteps like Exorcist,
Sure.
I mean, I get that, but still, for the most part, they've done a good job. But it was really interesting because the first Megan, if memory serves, was co-written. It was co-written by the director and a female screenwriter whose name eludes me. I think when he says, like, here's the funny thing. you know, it's like Clint Eastwood said in a Dirty Harry movie, a man's got to know his limitations. When you make a film like Megan, you have to look at it and go, okay, well, what was successful about this movie? And what was successful about it was Megan. That's what was successful. Megan, the way she acted, what she did, the premise of the movie. And that's what people liked. It didn't even matter what happened in the movie. That doll, that mechanical AI, whatever that thing was that they created, you could have put her in an ice cream commercial as long as you kept that character intact.
Right.
It would have, that audience, and I know that because I've talked to people that really love that character. What Megan 2.0 did, and I say this having not seen Megan 2.0, you know, and we saw what we saw at CinemaCon, even at CinemaCon, when they came out with 50 dancing Megans. I thought to myself, I'm like, you know, it wasn't 50 dancing Megans that made this. It was like, you can't just make something bigger and give us a bigger extravaganza. They fundamentally changed what this movie was and what it was about. And it really wasn't about Megan anymore. It took Megan, and like they're saying, we dropped her into a different realm, different milieu. We took the whole thing, because it wasn't just the plot of the movie, it was the plot as defined by Megan. But now Megan had an evil AI she had to go after. It wasn't about her anymore. And then they flipped her around, like, she has to go fight this person and do this thing. Well, that's literally changing. You know what that was? That was Highlander 2.
Yeah.
You know, in
The best
Highlander,
one of all of them.
in Highlander 2,
The best one of
they
all.
completely
So glad you brought
changed
that up.
the Highlander. We're from the planet Zeiss, you know, and all this stuff. They changed everything.
Earth is
about,
actually a penal colony
Yeah,
for
and-
immortals.
and it's all that we're going to do all that stuff. Now, here's the thing. I always say, John, you get one big ask in a fantasy film. The one big ask of Terminator 2 is that Arnold is no longer a villain. He's become the hero protagonist, a protector.
Right.
But because he's a robot, that makes sense. Now there's a robot that he has to protect John Connor from. So you flip the script.
The
but
mission's still the same.
mission's still the same. Yeah, the Terminator's going after John Connor to protect him. And you make the action bigger and the stakes bigger and all that. But it was still a Terminator movie. It knew the assignment. Megan didn't. And, you know, I understand a director makes one Megan movie. How do you make it interesting for you? He was the sole writer, I believe, of Megan 2. He's like, yeah, we're going to do this. And it's like, you're not serving your audience. Yeah. Your audience wanted the camp fest of Megan 1, ratchet it up to the nth degree. It shouldn't have been Terminator you looked at. It should have been Mommy Dearest. That's what Megan 2 should have been, where Megan comes out and she's more Megan than Megan. She becomes the head of Pepsi Cola because her, you know, or something like that, where you make it Megan, just doing a lot more.
One of the other big differences as well with the Terminator thing is that the robot that shows up in Terminator 2 is not the same one from Terminator 1.
Right.
It's a completely different model. It's not a different model. It's a completely different unit.
That's genuinely scary.
Yeah, it's generally, but it was captured, reprogrammed, and then sent out. It wasn't the same one that was in the first one. And if they had done like, this is another Megan doll, but its programming evolved differently, maybe that could have helped. But again, it was just too much.
It's
they
like,
just so fundamentally changed it. And you know what? We wouldn't even be having this conversation if the movie was good.
yeah.
I have a feeling like we wouldn't even be like, if the
Right.
movie had,
It
at
was
least
dull.
ended up being good. Like, you want to turn it into an action comedy. Okay, make the action exciting and make the comedy funny.
Yeah.
But they didn't do either of those.
Right.
So then that just leaves you with these glaring mistakes and nothing else to talk about but the glaring mistakes.
Yeah, and the premise of the movie was not a Megan premise. It was a premise from a different movie. Let's make it Terminator. No. You gotta keep, the movie's gotta be a Megan movie. It can't be Megan something else movie.
It's not like Annabelle. Not like Annabelle 2. It's just a night of her and her gal pals go out for a night of unfortunate drinks.
That's the title for a movie right there. A night of unfortunate drinks.
I mean, you know what? If Megan 2.0 was called that, Megan 2.0, A Night of Unfortunate Drinks, that movie would have made more money.
That movie would have doubled its box office.
Yes.
Still
And
not
I
enough
mean,
to be
you
profitable.
have to look at things like, you know, if I instead of Terminator, if you looked at the documentary Grey Gardens, and the people that love Megan have all seen Grey Gardens, I guarantee it, they would be like, we're doing Megan. We're going to do the Grey Gardens version of Megan's. That movie would have sold if people said it's that, and you got the second robot, you know, it would, and you're making a Grey Gardens with the Megans, or you're doing Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, you know, and you've got Joan Crawford and whatever, Betty Davis, and you're doing something like that. That would have been the movie that people would go see.
Or the AI of Megan survived the events of the first one. We already know they were making more models of it. It's somehow a little Chucky-ish here, but somehow the spirit survives, gets into the next body, and now the stakes are higher, and it's out to try to kill now whatever. It's now seeking vengeance. Simple, yes, but is it something the audience would have been much more receptive to? Absolutely.
It could have been like a AI, like Ultron sort of thing, where it moves to a different body.
Yeah, I mean, they
didn't have
easily
to be-
could have done that.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, as Megan 2.0 continues to absolutely flop and everybody's starting to do their own post-mortem on it, including the studio itself, that I thought was actually very self-aware and saying, hey, look, we made all these mistakes. They're not likely to make those mistakes again, so that's why I'm impressed by it. But it is what it is. Do you have other thoughts or theories about why Megan has struggled when the first one was kind of this little darling quiet hit? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. You know, Superman is coming. 5 days. 5 days. 5 days, everybody. It's happening. What's that, Michael? You know that Michael Scott from The Office?
Oh, yeah.
gift
It's
that goes,
happening.
It's happening. It's happening, everybody. Oh, my God, it's happening. 5 days from Superman now coming. And if one of the things you had on your bingo card was watching Krypto getting punched in the face,
Yeah.
you can take it off because it ain't going to happen. Apparently, according to a story here, this comes from AV Club, and this has been confirmed in others as well. Test audiences saw a scene where I believe it's Ultraman straight up punches the dog. And apparently, the test audiences hated that. And they took it out of the movie. This is the article in AV Club. Test audiences rescue Krypto for the super dog from getting punched. Says this: it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a movie where absolutely no dogs get punched. That doesn't mean bad things don't happen to Krypto, but under any circumstance, dog punching isn't something you may have thought you'd have to steel yourself for when purchasing a ticket to James Gunn's new Superman movie, but until recently, you would have been wrong. Turns out the test audiences are the real heroes because they apparently hated a scene where Krypto the Superdog gets punched so much that it was completely cut out of the film. Dog lovers may want to exercise a bit of caution as there's apparently a scene where Angela Spica, is that how you pronounce it, isn't the nicest to Krypto. I believe that's the engineer. Isn't the nicest to Krypto. But in an interview with Jake's Takes via Screen Rant, the actors revealed that it could have been much worse. They cut Ultraman punching Krypto because apparently it did really bad in the test screening. Sarah Sampiao, who plays Eve Texmacher, revealed. Apparently, she and Nicholas Hoult, Lex Luthor, were a little pissed about it, so they may be on a PETA watch list somewhere. All right. This hits kind of true home to me. The reason being is, like, me just seeing a scene where Superman bursts through a door because Lex did something to Krypto made me instantly seethe. Like, I hated Lex Luthor. Now I want to see I want to see Superman pull the beating heart out of Lex Luthor's chest. Just knowing that, right? Ray, who went with me to go see AEW last night, Ray's straight up told me many times, if I know there's a scene in a movie where somebody hits a dog, I'm not going to see that movie. Like, and I don't think Ray's alone. So I guess they played it for a test audience, and all the audience was like, you take that out. We don't want to see that happen. Now, clearly, something still happens to the dog. Clearly. But I guess Ultraman punching the dog a couple of times was no bueno for the test audience, and they pulled it out. Look, I'm okay with making some tweaks to something as a result of a test screening, as long as it doesn't change what happens in the story. like something bad happens to Krypto, they take Krypto all. As long as that doesn't get interrupted and it doesn't change your story, I'm okay. But I thought this was kind of an interesting thing to hear. Anyway, Rob, what's your takeaway from this?
Well, look, my first inclination is I totally understand why they would take it out. But on the second, my second thought is, how could you make that scene work? Like, if I was making this movie, and you could have a scene where there's a scrap going on, and then Ultraman punches Krypto, it could be a thing where the whole audience in the theater would be like, and then you could even see Ultraman going, I shouldn't have done that. And then you cut to Krypto. Like maybe he's rolled down and then he comes up like this, you know? And it could be one of the most satisfying scenes in cinema history. It probably wasn't done that way, though.
Yeah.
And I could see audiences, but I could see a way to make it work where it became one of the greatest scenes in cinema history, depending on what the immediate response is. But that's probably not how they did it. So it's probably best. You don't want, here's the thing. When it comes to certain moments, the reason people test screen audiences, they're great for comedies because you can find out whether a movie is funny or not. Really, you can't. Audiences don't lie when they think movies are funny. It's involuntary laughter. Mm-hmm. But if there is a moment in a movie where everybody bumps on, even if you think it's great, but if everyone or 75 to 80% of the audience bump on it, you have to take it out. You might want to, it's artistic integrity. No, the audience, it's like a record skip. When you hear the record skip, it's like, nobody can get past it. And that's when you're putting movies together, that sometimes happens. And you have to make the change because you can't force it. Because if 80% of the audience thinks it's not the way to go, you got to take it out. Because you don't want 80% of your audience to think they just heard a record skip. Yeah. Because they won't stop thinking about it.
If you find out and if you realize that something in your film is pulling your audience out of your film, then you have to, as long as that doesn't change the flow of your movie and the story of the movie,
right,
then it's something you got to do, because the last thing you want is having something that happens that is so distracting to your audience that it literally pulls them out of the movie.
And that's what test screenings are for.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, look, some people want to fundamentally change things. You have to know the difference. You have to be enough of an artist to understand the difference in test screenings. You know, there's a great documentary called The Hamster Factor about the making of Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys, the movie, not the TV version that Terry Matalas did. And the scores were low. The audience, Universal, knew that the scores were lower than they expected, but they knew their movie was good. They knew the movie was good, and they bet on it. And the movie came out, it was a hit. But if there are moments like that in a film that everybody bumps on, test screenings are for that, to understand how can you change things if things are playing too long. They're legit. It's not like all test screenings ruin movies. Most of them don't. And a lot of film fans like, no, test screenings are terrible. They're screening. No, there's a real reason, legitimate reasons why movies are test screened, and changes are made accordingly. So when someone says, they cut something out after a test screening, you don't have to think it's a disaster, because this is a perfect example.
I will say this, though. If you want, we'll go to John Wick. You want to turn the audience completely on the bad guy and want to see unspeakable evil happen to that bad guy, you have the bad guy kill the dog.
Especially the dog that was given to him by the dead wife.
I'm telling you, I had nuns, Catholic nuns in my screening that stood up at that point and pointed at the screen and yelled, "That fucker gotta die." That's so. I mean, so on the other hand, if you want me as the audience member to really hate Ultraman, maybe you leave that scene in. But again, if it was too much and it pulled the test audience out of the movie, then maybe you gotta scalp it.
The only way you could get away with something like that, I think, is if then Krypto was able to have there's a comeuppance moment where you literally stop the film and you have Krypto looking,
Did you see Strays?
No.
Oh, you didn't see Strays?
No.
Oh God, Rob, watch Strays. So funny. So funny.
Okay.
But at the spoiler alert, near the end of Strays, one of the big things is the Will Ferrell dog. He commits. Actually, you see this in the trailer. He commits. I'm going to go back. I'm going to find my owner. I'm going to bite his dick off. And then the whole movie becomes this quest of this dog to go back and find that owner and bite his dick off. Spoiler, my God, he does it. And so, like, you want to put that in where later Krypto corners Ultraman and literally rips his ball sack off? Go for it. I think now there's a movie. There's a James Gunn movie for you. That'll happen. So, anyway. All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you want in this? Did you want to see the punching the dog thing? Or maybe we watch and you don't even feel the absence of it. I don't know. I mean, again, I think if you want to build in an effect to really get some audiences to hate that one villain, show them kicking a dog or punching or something like that. But if it is taking the audiences out of the movie, maybe you need to cut it. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Sticking on the topic of Superman.
And spoilers.
And spoilers. Spoiler, James Gunn has just confirmed that Bradley Cooper is going to be stepping into the shoes of Marlon Brando. Stepping into the shoes of Russell Crowe. He's going to be Jor-El, father of Kal-El, a.k.a. Superman. This comes to us from IGN, who write the following. Rocket Raccoon voice actor. I love how this Academy Award nominated filmmaker is known as Rocket Raccoon voice actor. Rocket Raccoon voice actor Bradley Cooper plays the biological father of Kal-El, Gunn revealed during the LA press junket for the film. Rumors of Cooper's casting first surfaced earlier this year. Really? Bradley's just doing me a favor, Gunn told Jake's Takes via comicbook.com. He's a friend. We've stayed in close contact since the Guardians movies, and I admire him greatly as an actor and as a director. I said, hey, will you do me a favor? Come down, go to England. We're going to shoot you in a 3D environment, make a hologram of you, and you can play Jor-El, Gunn said. He was like, okay. A holographic Jor-El makes sense, as Gunn's previously said in Superman that this is not going to be an origin film, and there's past precedence for a holographic Jor-El in past Superman movies, which again, that does make sense, because that was my first thought, Rob, was like, well, why are we going to see Jor-El if James Gunn has already said this is not going to be an origin story? Like, we're not going to see that whole thing again. But then again, of course, it does make sense. The holographic Jor-El is something that's played a part in a lot of the storytellings of Superman and the different iterations of it. And then getting a guy like Bradley Cooper, who is just a terrific actor. I mean, I remember watching Alias.
Oh, yeah.
And thinking, that's the guy, not this other one. This is the guy, the Bradley Cooper character. This is the one that Jennifer Garner's character should end up with. He's the better character. And it partly was because he was such a great actor. And so I've been a big Bradley Cooper fan long before he became a movie star. And I just think he's a great performer. I like hearing this. Now, there have been some people thinking, Rob, that maybe it would be Tom Cruise. There were some people thought to get a Tom Cruise Jor-El. Maybe even some people thought a 3D deep fake Marlon Brando. I heard some people saying that, which I'm so glad that that wasn't true.
I mean, they did that in Superman Returns.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they did
so
it in
you're hearing
Donner Cut.
this. What do you think about Bradley Cooper playing Jor-El?
Look, like I've always said, I love actors. I love directors who have a stable of actors they work with over and over again. Because it's fun to see how those actors are used within the filmography of those directors. You know, like Tony Roberts in Woody Allen movies. I used to love Tony Roberts showing up in Woody Allen movies. This is, I love this. I think this is great. And you know, I mean, there's one thing, Bradley Cooper is a really talented actor. And I love that James Gunn continues to do that. He works with the same kinds of people. And I think that's great. And I think Bradley Cooper probably did something unique and fun that's really going to work well in the movie. And it really, I mean, I see no downside to it at all. You go, Bradley Cooper.
By the way, you know what one of the rumors I heard was about 3 or 4 months ago that I instantly dismissed, but in the back of my head, I kind of thought, that might not be bad. Do you remember, damn it, what was the name of the streaming series about the making of The Godfather again?
The Offer.
Proposal? Oh, it was The Offer.
The Offer.
The Offer, not The Proposal.
Because it's an offer you can't refuse, John.
The guy who played Marlon Brando.
Oh my God.
In The Offer.
Uh-huh.
He made his name. I forget the actor's name. He made his name in Grey's Anatomy of all things. But the guy who played Marlon Brando, I remember hearing a couple of months ago that they looked at him to play Jor-El. And I instantly dismissed it. That's ridiculous. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, I'd be down for it if they did. But I do kind of like that they're going with Brad.
I just hope, I just hope, knowing that he's going to appear as, I used to love like the classic like green Jor-El thing with the sun on the chest and all that. I hope they kind of go Silver Age Jor-El, because I would love that. Look, it's not that I don't love, ever since Superman the movie, the vision of Krypton had been that crystal vision, which James Gunn is kind of embracing with the Crystal Fortress. But one of the things I really loved about Man of Steel was the 70s prog rock album cover depiction of Krypton.
Yeah.
I thought it was dope, riding giant birds. And
I love the opening of Man of Steel.
It was awesome. And I'm like, that's a totally different Krypton. And I really love that. So with this, I hope they go back and they finally, I mean, the TV series Krypton kind of did go back a little bit. It's kind of a hybrid, but I would love to see Silver Age Jor-El in this movie. I don't know if he's going to do that. I have no idea. See, here's the thing, John, knowing Jor-El's in the movie could be a spoiler, but for me, the depiction, knowing Bradley Cooper's going to play, the depiction of what's he going to look like, that becomes an exciting thing for me, even though I know he's going to be in the movie. Right. So his involvement in the movie, which I've learned recently, the depiction of it then becomes what's exciting to me. So it's no longer a spoiler. It's like, how are they going to do it? So I get that enjoyment in a different way.
That still leaves the biggest spoiler of all. Who is Chris Pratt going to cameo as?
Ooh,
that's
the Hammer of Bravia or whatever.
Now, by the way, guys, just in case any of you misunderstood that, we are not saying Chris Pratt is cameoing.
I have no idea.
Movie. There's just been rumors that he might cameo.
Look, in my mind, if the Hammer of, I don't understand how that all works. I guess seeing the movie will tell me. I assumed from the time I was watching the trailers for this movie that would be Dave Bautista. I just assumed, like, look at that suit. If you're going to put Dave Bautista anywhere in this movie, he's got to be the Hammer of Bravia. Although Bravia, it sounds like he's the hammer of that Sony TV.
By the way, just because you mentioned Dave Bautista,
yeah,
they just put out a trailer. I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. I think it's called. It's not Sunburn. It's called. What's it called? It is a Afterburn. A new trailer with Samuel L. Jackson and Dave Bautista just dropped for Afterburn. Now, we didn't cover it here today, but here's why I'm bringing it up. For those of you who watched my show for a long time, you guys remember my buddy Paul Enns, who was one of the original people on Jedi Council. When we first started Jedi Council, I used to work with him way back in the day in a web development company and all that kind of stuff. He later went on to be the head of a big Star Wars fan site called, now I'm forgetting the name of it was the biggest Star Wars fan site in the world. And now I'm forgetting something Jedi Newsnet. No, I can't remember the name of the site now, but he became the head of that. And then Lucasfilm liked him so much, they hired him to come over and be like one of the directors running their online stuff, which was a dream job. He got to go work at thing. Well, anyway, this buddy of mine, Paul, went on to create his own comic book company. Big Star Wars fan, so he called his comic book company Red 5 Comics.
I remember, yeah.
Of which him and Scott Chitwood created and wrote the comic book Afterburn that they have now turned into a major motion picture.
That's really cool.
And if you look at if you look up the poster and you get that little credits batch down at the bottom, the last two credits, based on a Red 5 Comics Afterburn by Paul Enns and Scott Chitwood. So, congrats to my buddy Paul for getting that. I just went on to that rant because you mentioned Dave Bautista, so I thought I'd throw that out.
That's really cool.
Anyway, guys, back to the real matter at hand. What do you think about this? Bradley Coops is going to be Jor-El in the new Superman movie. Do you like it? Do you not? Did you think it was going to be somebody else? I mean, I think in just about every single Superman iteration we've had Jor-El, so I'm not surprised that we're getting a Jor-El. I'm a little surprised it's Bradley Cooper. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important stuff, which is, of course, taking your comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to bid good day to writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett. Great job as always, Rob.
Thanks, man. I'm going to go figure out some spoilers I can announce on my show tonight. Spoil something.
Yep.
And of course, also before we get around to your questions, we are going to take another moment here and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Stitch Fix. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Stitch Fix. Let's be honest, shopping is not my thing. I've wasted way too much of my time either in stores or scrolling for clothes, only to end up with stuff that doesn't fit or just, doesn't work. See, that's why I use Stitch Fix. You take a quick style quiz, your size, your vibe, your budget, and boom, you're paired with a real human stylist who curates pieces just for you. They send you a fix box with clothes actually fit for your life. Stuff you'll wear to work, on weekends, or wherever. It saves me time, helps me look great, and I never have to step foot in a store. You try everything on at home, keep what works, and send back the rest. Free shipping and returns, no subscription required. Oh, and your first fix? The try-on is totally free. So if you're tired of the endless shopping grind, this is your sign to try Stitch Fix. Seriously, it's style without the stress. Head to stitchfix.com/Campea to get $20 off your first order, and they'll waive your styling fee. That's stitchfix.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Stitch Fix for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to the main event. Your topics and questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what do we got up first?
Dr. Stinky says, hey, sorry it's been a while. I will hopefully be popping in more again. Anyway, I was looking at NC-17 films to remember Poor Things. How in the world is that film not NC-17? Anyway, got any NC-17 film recommendations? Hope all is well. I haven't really seen many.
Did that not get an NC-17? I'll be honest with you. I never thought about it. It pushes the things of R, but yeah, that one could have gotten an NC-17. I honestly can't remember. I mean, so few films today get hit with the NC-17 label that it's hard for me to even remember. I mean, most films that get that label, the distributors won't distribute it because they can't make a lot of money on it. And if they do get hit with the NC-17 label, they'll take it back to the editing room and they'll ask the MPA, what can we cut out of this that would let you give us an R instead? So I really can't even think of many off the top of my head that were NC-17. It's a great question. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. Great question, though. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says there are 3 true IMAXs in Southern California: Regal Ontario Palace, Regal Irvine Spectrum, and AMC City Walk.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's other ones too that are just strictly IMAX standalone that are like the 5-story building.
Well, like there's the IMAX head office, like the actually IMAX headquarters. They have one as well.
There's one at the Science Center down by the Coliseum,
right?
But
anyway, what did they go on to say?
Let's see, the Chinese built the City Walk. The Chinese built a booth for Oppie, but it's a digital screen. 1.91 to 1 instead of 1.43 to 1. Regal LA Live is opening the first one in years. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they were opening one at LA Live.
That's cool.
That has become a really nice area, LA Live, down there. Like that's right down around the Krypto center where the Lakers play and stuff like that. And they have the Peacock Theater and a bunch, some great restaurants. So, and then they got a big theater there down there at LA Live. Well, it's interesting that they're building a new one in there. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, as for 40X, there's 9 in SoCal. Because it is with Regal.
Yeah, 40X is a Regal thing. Yeah.
Garden Grove, Ontario Palace, Valencia, Long Beach, Temecula, Mira Mesa, Irvine, Spectrum, North Hollywood, which is by me, and LA Live. Side note, my comment has been the final one of the show the last 2 days. Well, now it's almost the first.
And now it's nearly the first. Yeah, again, it's just been a weird set of coincidences ever since I've moved to LA. Other than when I moved, like the very first day I moved into LA, when I moved into Hollywood and I lived right in Hollywood on the Hollywood Strip, and I lived a 10, 15-minute walk up from the ArcLight Cinema. Everywhere else I've lived, I've had an AMC theater right by me. So I really don't get to Regal very often. Not because I don't want to go to Regal, not at all. It's just that by process of convenience, it's always AMC theaters. Like when I was in Burbank, obviously we had all the AMC theaters there. And then I was working for AMC. When I moved out here to Riverside, we've got the AMC Tyler Galleria, which is a great theater. And so I don't avoid them. So I'm just not really familiar with where all the 4DX screens are, but I'm glad you pointed them out. Thank you, man. All right, what's next?
Bernard says, hey, John, sorry, I sent a message yesterday asking AMC for a dub version of a movie, and they were able to add the showing. Forgot to mention the movie was Superman. Be my second viewing, but their first. I'm still shocked they accommodated.
So are you saying you asked AMC to show a dubbed into another language?
Maybe.
That would be interesting if they did that. I don't see that often here, to be honest, but maybe it does happen often. And just because it's not something I look for, because I look for English films, maybe it happens more often than I thought. I mean, that's really interesting. Do me a favor, like even just email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com and let me know what language they're going to put it into for you. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, Jason Blum via THR. We all thought Megan was like Superman. We could do anything to her, change genres, put her in the summer, make her look different. We could turn her from a bad guy to the good guy.
Yeah, again, we already addressed that a little bit later today. But I again, full marks and full respect to Jason Blum, while the movie is still in theaters, to come out and be so self-aware about it and like lay all the cards on the table. It's like, yep, we thought we could do this and this and this and this, and clearly we were wrong. And not many studio heads would be that transparent or be that self-aware. And I'm full marks to him for that. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, hi, John and crew. Regarding Ironheart, when you said that they made the suit with the pieces of the car, is it the same car Shuri gave her at the end of Wakanda Forever? What if inside the car was special tech that led her to make the suit?
Nope, it was, if you watch the show, it was the car that her dad had been working on.
And they didn't give us any context for that.
No. So I mean, that's like the thing to me, that in like 48, 72 hours, 24 hours, that they were able to make a far more advanced iron suit out of a car, like far more advanced than she was able to build in an MIT lab with all the resources and things at her disposal and brilliant people surrounding her. But she was able just to take the parts from a car and make a far more advanced. I mean, it's one of the dumbest things I've seen MCU do. All right, what's next?
Gator, why I didn't see Ballerina. The John Wick series totally lost me. The first is amazing, but they got longer and more ridiculous with each one. By the fourth, hundreds of ninjas are endlessly jumping out of bushes, and a superhero like John Wick can kill them all.
That's the movies, man. These larger than life heroes.
Right.
That's what it is. And listen, film is art, and art is subjective, and subjective art hits us all in different ways. And if they didn't work for you after the first one, there's nothing wrong with that. It didn't work for you. For the majority of the rest of us, though, they really leaned into that's what the whole nature, the motif of the whole John Wick universe was. He is the Baba Yaga, man. He is this borderline mythical being, which a lot of these like movie heroes are, of course. And I just thought they made it better and better. I really do. And Ballerina was fantastic. Not as good as like John Wick 4 or anything. I'm not saying it's as good as John Wick, but it was a really fun John Wickian kind of movie, and I just had a blast with it. All right, what's next?
Gannon says, I know you didn't like Jurassic World Rebirth, but would you say it's worth watching for someone who has never seen a Jurassic movie in theaters, or is it so bad, dull, that even that isn't enough of a reason to go? Much love from Ontario.
Oh,
Markham.
I love Markham. I dated a girl from Markham, Ontario once. I can't recommend it. Now, it has moments, some really good moments, that they hint at in the trailers. The what I call the whale dinosaur. That's a whole big long sequence. It's actually really exciting. And then the T-Rex chasing the raft. That's a whole long big sequence in the movie. That is like, they are legitimately thrilling, fun, and exciting. There's a few other moments in the movie here and there. The problem is that, and why I personally can't recommend it, that doesn't mean it's not going to be great for other people. You're asking me if I would recommend it. The reason I can't is because for me, and I'm oversimplifying it a bit, but about 20 minutes of this movie is really great out of the 2 hour and 25-minute runtime. And that's not a high enough ratio for me to be able to recommend it. So I wouldn't tell anybody by no means, under no circumstances, go to see Jurassic World Rebirth. I'm not going to say that. But if you're asking me if I would recommend it,
Right.
I kind of wouldn't. I don't. All right. What's next?
Matthew says, I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus. Her voice sounds so cool. Just on my phone with the Instagram clips. Can only imagine how her voice will sound in the theater. What they did with Julia Garner looks amazing.
Yeah, I think they're going to... Look, am I as excited for Fantastic Four as I am for Superman? No. Do I think Fantastic Four looks like it could be one of the best Marvel movies in a long time? No. But do I think it looks good? I do. And I am looking forward to it. And listen, I totally trust the director. They got Matt Shackman there. I think he's going to do a wonderful job with it. I love the style they've gone for. I love the aesthetic of it. I've enjoyed the trailers, though I got to say, none of the trailers have completely blown me away. The last trailer was the best one yet because it gave us context for the movie. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited to see it. I just don't have it up on the same level as Superman right now. But who knows? Maybe it'll be a better movie than Superman. We'll find out soon. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, during an interview, Jerry Bruckheimer mentioned that one of the projects they're working on is a sequel to Days of Thunder. What if instead of
Tom Cruise?
Yeah, appearing in F2, they have a Brad appear in Days of Thunder. 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
Here's the thing.
F1 has the name right now.
I know they're developing it. A Days of Thunder 2 ain't going to happen. I mean, I don't know that as a fact. I am a film fan just guessing. Okay. As I obviously I could be wrong, but my guess is that'll never happen. That movie is far too old. And it was never nearly as popular as Top Gun. Because you go, well, they brought back Top Gun all those years later.
Not the same.
Yeah, not the same. Top Gun is a pop cultural fixture.
Yeah.
And has been forever.
Yeah.
Days of Thunder is not. If you want to bring the Tom Cruise character from that movie together with the Brad Pitt character from F1, you got to do it in an F1 sequel, not a Days of Thunder sequel. So, yeah, they can say, but listen, even guys like Bruckheimer, they'll always have like these 20 or 30 movies they're developing. Like maybe a third of them will actually come to screen. And I just don't believe Days of Thunder will be one of those. If it's going to happen, it'll happen in an F1 sequel. All right, what's next?
We got Jake who says Jake says, given that Dormammu is referenced a few times in Ironheart, even once by Mephisto himself, and the fact Charlize Theron plays Clea, the niece of Dormammu, I think Doctor Strange 3 is the most likely we see Mephisto again, if we even do at all.
And again, just as a movie fan speculating, I could be right, I could be wrong. I'm not putting any stock on it either way. I do not expect that we're going to see Mephisto in the movies. Disney has and Marvel over the past year or so have really kind of let us know that they are more and more going to be separating the TV world from their movie world. They're all still in the MCU, but nary shall they cross. And I don't think we're going to see Mephisto in the movies. Again, we could find out that they are, and that's great if they do, but my guess right now is that we are not going to see him in that, and I don't expect that we're going to see him in Doctor Strange 3. All right, what's next?
Let's see. We got Anonymous with a $20 tip.
Thank you, Anonymous.
Can you please share what your thoughts were on AEW last night? And if you're watching All In, the Mercedes versus Mina Shirakawa match was a banger. Happy 4th.
It was fun. It wasn't the best wrestling I've seen. Now, granted, the only wrestling I go to watch lately is every couple of years we'll go to WrestleMania. Like I didn't go to last year's in Las Vegas, but the last one I went to was the one they did at SoFi Stadium in LA. That was a lot of fun. And they're doing WrestleMania in Allegiant Stadium in Vegas again this year, from what I understand. So we might go to that. It was clearly a different level of wrestling. Yeah. if I watch All In, I'm not really a wrestling viewer anymore. I grew up watching wrestling. There have been different phases of my life when I've been hardcore into watching wrestling, but last 5 years or so, I haven't really watched it other than WrestleMania. Like I'll watch WrestleMania. I will tune in here and there to AEW because of Nigel McGuinness, you know, and like whether, especially if he's wrestling, I'll try to find a way to watch him wrestling. Like he had that big feud with Daniel Bryant, or that they call him Brian Daniel, which was great. But now he's the color commentator on AEW Collision. I think he is working the All In thing. I think he'll be doing the commentary on that. So if I watch any of it, it'll be to watch him do his stuff. But other than that, not really. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous. Disappointed that they're going for an actor in his 20s for James Bond. My choice was Jonathan Bailey, who is brilliant. He can do anything a bit like Hugh Jackman. If he was chosen, we'd probably have the homophobic people moaning, but I think he's great.
Yeah, he's really good. But, I mean, there's nothing saying he would have been a good Bond.
And you got to serve the script, not the
Like,
actor.
yeah, you don't go, oh, well, let's change what we're doing with our story so we can shoehorn this one actor in. And like, listen, I have wanted Henry Cavill to be Bond,
Yeah.
right? I love Henry Cavill. I think he's a great actor. And he was the runner-up to Daniel Craig to be Bond. So give him his shot now. Let him be Bond, right? You guys know, if you watch me for years, I'm like, Henry Cavill should be Bond. But once I found out that their plan for the character is to have the character starting off in their mid to maybe a little bit later 20s. Oh, well, it can't be Henry then. That's my attitude. Like I have wanted Henry so bad, but if that's what the story is doing, you serve the story. You don't serve the actor. And if that's what they're doing and that's what the plan is, that's where they're starting from. And they want, which tells me they want to get an actor in there that they can have for the next 15, 20 years playing the character.
Yeah.
Then that's the way you go. And so as much as I love Henry and I've wanted Henry for years to be Bond, he's not the right guy. He's 42, so he can't play a guy in his mid-20s. He can play a guy in his mid-30s for sure, but he can't play a guy in his mid-20s. So you serve the story. And if that means that my number one pick to play Bond is out, okay, great. Let's see who they get then.
You could age him, and he could play an M. He could play 10 years older.
I mean, yeah, listen, you don't even have to have M be that much older.
You'd want him to have a lot of experience to be in that role.
Hell, he could. We saw the video of him putting together his own gaming computer. He could be
It's
Q.
true. He could be Q.
Make him Q. Make Henry Cavill Q. Go for that. But yeah, he's clearly not right to play this character the way they're making him. All right, what's next?
Okay, Raymond, on the F1 Days of Thunder crossover idea, if it does happen, should they get AMC to sponsor Nicole? Or since Nicole Kidman was in the first Days of Thunder movie and she's closely identified with AMC, I hear chuckles in the theater whenever she comes on.
No,
AMC wouldn't. They would pay AMC to sponsor it, but
AMC does not get involved in that.
They're not going to pay
they won't. And plus, I don't think her and Tom Cruise speak, so I think there's that. That's a problem as well. All right, what's next?
We got C. Fletch. Hey, John, it's probably been a while since you have watched the previous ones, but would you say that you enjoyed Rebirth more than Dominion and Fallen Kingdom?
No.
Wow. Not even Dominion.
No.
Wow.
And I don't think Dominion was particularly good.
Yeah.
But like I was saying with Rebirth, where it has moments that are really entertaining. I would say the same thing about Dominion. I just actually think, and as much as Dominion isn't very good, it had even more moments in it that were still entertaining than Rebirth did. So I would actually say I think Dominion is actually a little bit better than Rebirth. I don't think either are completely terrible. Don't get me wrong. Like I don't think Rebirth is a completely terrible movie. I just don't think it's good. And I kind of felt the same way about Dominion. And I actually think Dominion is probably just a little bit better than Rebirth is. Anyway, that's just my thought. All right, what's next?
Claxicon with a two-parter. Ironheart was meh. I agree with most of your points. Some things I love. Some things were awful. Big mixed bag. As for the end, I love the reflection in the spoon. Eerie,
Oh, that was great.
eerie. Anyways, any chance Mephisto could be the villain of Brand New Day? He could definitely offer the Punisher something big like he did with Riri. Maybe the extra power is how Punisher competes with Spider-Man. Yet still not sure how his violence can fit in. Just a neat thought Maybe he offers Peter to restore memories.
There's been, even long before Ironheart came out. Remember how I said earlier when we were talking about spoilers, and I said, look, I did the Google search from 2023 to 2024, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of outlets reporting Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto. Well, a number of those were reports saying not only is he in Ironheart, he may be the villain of Spider-Man 4. Here's the problem. What on earth is the Punisher going to do to Mephisto? What is Spider-Man? Pew, 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 pew. What is Spider-Man going to do to Mephisto? Like, I don't see how, if they were going to put Sacha Baron Cohen's Mephisto, by the way, I think Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto was fantastic. If you were going to have Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto in a movie, it would, as one of our previous writers or viewers wrote in, it would make far more sense to have him in a Doctor Strange. That's the movie he makes far more sense in.
Right.
It does. There's no fit with having him in a Spider-Man movie. And even if he was, he's not really the bad guy, because he would really just be some outside force, because Spider-Man can't fight Mephisto.
No.
Punisher can't fight Mephisto. If Hulk is indeed in this movie, which people are saying he is, Hulk can't fight Mephisto. Well, if anybody could, I guess maybe it'd be Hulk. But, so look, anything is possible with Kevin Feige, but I, even though there have been some reports suggesting that he's going to be in that movie, I'm going to guess no, but hey, you never know. All right, what's next?
We got The Tick. A weird question that no one has ever asked. How do news media outlets get the interview footage from press junkets? Is it as straightforward as bringing their own memory cards or even tapes from back in the day? Did they ever bring their own cameras?
No, at press junkets. So here's how the press junket works. When you go to a press junket, so here's what my typical day would be. 90% of the press junkets were held at least back when I still did them, at the Beverly Hills Four Seasons. So you drive into Beverly Hills, go to the Four Seasons. They normally would block out an entire floor in the hotel. And you go up to that floor, you go into a waiting room with, 40 or 50 other journalists who are there for that time period. And they'll have a little buffet, you eat. Then you get your name called. And you need to go to room 5. All right. I walked down to room 5. Let's say it was a movie. Well, let's say it was Avengers Age of Ultron. Okay. So I walked down to room 5, and that's the Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth room. So there'll be about 2 or 3 other people waiting in chairs out front that are ahead of me in line. I'll sit down and wait. And then as each one of them goes in and finish, then it's my turn. Then I go into the room, and Hemsworth and Evans would be sitting there, and there'd be a chair for me, and they already have the cameras all set up. All right. The studio has all the cameras set up and the audio and the mics and all that kind of stuff. And you get 3 to 4 minutes. 3 to 4 minutes to conduct your interview, which really gives you time for 2, maybe 3 questions. Now, what happens is they film it for you. When you're done with that, you go back to the waiting room and you get told which room to go to next. Now I go to room 7, where I'm going to interview Robert Downey Jr. Okay, so there are 3 or 4 people waiting in front of that room and ahead of me. I wait for my turn. Then I go in and talk to Robert Downey Jr. He's already sitting in his chair. The cameras are already set up. The mics are already set, all that kind of stuff. I have my 3 or 4 minutes with Robert Downey Jr. Great. Go back to the room. They tell me which interview room to go to next. Go to room 1. Okay, I go down to room 1 where I'm going to interview Scarlett Johansson. Great. And I wait my turn, blah, blah, blah. Now, when I'm done all the interviews, I then go to the pickup room where there's a full dedicated AV room where they're recording all the stuff that's gone on in all the interview rooms. And that's where they will give me memory cards, labeled memory cards of camera A, camera B of the Robert Downey Jr. interview. Here you go. Here's your camera A and camera B of your Evans and Hemsworth interview. Here's your camera A and camera B of your Scarlett Johansson interview. And that's what, so they would just give me these memory cards. I then go back to the studio
And throw them on Jonathan's desk.
drop them on Jonathan's desk, say, here's the stuff, edit it together. And that's how it goes. So no, at a press junket, places don't bring their own cameras. You just the interviewer goes. They already have all the cameras set up and all that kind of stuff so they can do it all real fast and quick. 3 minutes out, next person, 3 minutes out, next person, 3 minutes out. And then you go at the end of the day when you're done all your interviews and they give you your package of memory cards with all your camera shots and everything in audio. You take it home, you edit it, and you upload it. So that's how you get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a little behind the scenes stuff for you. All right. What's next?
Big Cookie says, what do you think of Mephisto as a potential villain for Doctor Strange 3? Seems on par for the Strange brand. Kids play around with magic. Strange bails them out of trouble. Spidey, America, Chavez, etc.
Here's the
I don't think
thing.
you need Spidey.
Mephisto isn't really a magic creature. He's not a sorcerer. He's the devil.
He's a spirit. Yeah.
It's a spiritual thing more than anything else. There is overlap in that when you look at Ancient One and everything like that too. Again, I just don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they introduced Doctor Strange 3's villain in a Disney Plus show. I just don't think they do it. Especially understanding for the last year or so, the fact that Disney and Marvel have been mentioning they're going to be making distinctions between Disney Plus and the movies. So I'm not saying it's impossible. They very well could do it. I'm just an average fan making a guess. My guess is we're not going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's next?
All hail the Hypnotoad with a two-parter. Says, I'm optimistic about Superman being a great movie, but I'm still not convinced it'll make much more than $700 million worldwide.
Me too.
I thought Warner Brothers Discovery would know that too, so I'm so confused as to why it looks like marketing costs are out of control. Is the logic behind this that they're marketing that it's an all-new DCU, laying some of the groundwork, marketing Superman to an absurd level so they don't need to go so big for the next few movies?
You're almost got it there. That's almost it. Right? I kind of talked about this a few weeks ago too. It's that, look, I've been saying forever, this new Superman launching this brand new DCU has got a lot of major hurdles and a lot of baggage that's none of its fault, but that is coming along with it. And that baggage is going to have an impact. That's why I don't think Superman's going to be $1 billion film. I certainly hope it is. I'll be super excited if it does. My expectation is that it won't be, because of all the baggage, no matter how good the movie is. But this is a brand new day, to quote Spider-Man. New day? This is a brand new day. This is a brand new cinematic universe. They're not just advertising this one movie. They are literally trying to lay the groundwork of public awareness of this is a brand new cinematic universe. And they have a lot of baggage that's coming along with it that they got overcome. And really pushing awareness. Like, remove the word marketing in your head for a minute and replace the word marketing with awareness. They're spending tons of money on awareness because they want as many people as possible, even though they understand it's not going to be $1 billion, it's not going to be 900 million, all that kind of stuff. But they still want as many people as possible to see it, because the main thing they're looking to get out of this movie is as many people as possible spreading as positive a word of mouth as possible. They're trying to set up success for their next 20 films, not just this one. And that's why they're going all out. They're pushing all their chips in the middle on this. They believe this is the movie that's going to kickstart their cinematic universe. Whether they're right or wrong, we'll find out. And because they believe this is the movie to do it, they just want to get as much awareness out there and get as many eyeballs on this movie as possible. Because even if it's not enough eyeballs in front of it to make X amount of dollars at the box office, you want as many eyeballs as possible to be out there spreading the word, so that this DC universe can get off to as strong a start as possible. And that's why they're spending so much money on marketing. All right, what's next?
We got Be Cool Yolanda with a $40 tip.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank you, man. That's incredibly generous of you, dude.
Says, whoa, this is heavy. Back to the Future turns 40 today. It's truly a perfect movie.
Wow.
It's a well-structured film that is emotionally thrilling and rewarding, and that Sylvester's score is just something special. What does this film mean to you?
Is it its 40th anniversary
Yeah.
today? Man, if I had realized that, we would have definitely made that a topic today. I mean, I fall short of calling it a perfect movie, but it is truly one of the all-time pop cultural Hall of Fame movies, right? If there was a Hall of Fame for movies, Back to the Future would be in there. Now, I admit, I'm not as big of a fan of the franchise as some people. Like, I'm not that big on Back to the Future 2 or Back to the Future 3. I like them both. I'm just not that huge on. But that first one, man, the characters, they all stood out. All characters stood out. They all had functions to play. The way the story would unfold, the dynamic between Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, the whole thing about the dude trying to stop from sleeping with his own mom. I mean, it's just such a great film. Now, it's not in my personal top 10 all-time best, but it's definitely a Hall of Fame one for me. I mean, again, if I had realized today was the 40th anniversary, we would have done a whole segment on it.
We're further away from that movie in time than Marty traveled back in time to the 50s.
Oh my God. More time has passed since that movie came out than the amount of time Marty went back in time.
Yep.
Woo, that'll make you feel old. All right, what's next?
We got Johnny Got Lost. Can we just put the complaint that James Gunn uses the same actors to rest? Why don't these man babies moan and complain when Nolan, Scorsese, Denny, or Tarantino do it in all their movies? If Tarantino had an actress wife, he'd use her too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's a ridiculous thing. And like, to the best of my knowledge, like James Gunn hasn't worked with David Cornsweet or Rachel Brosnahan. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's worked with Nicholas Hoult either. I could be wrong about that.
No, yeah, I don't think so.
But listen, it's like anything else. When I was at AMC, I like to work with the people that I know I work well with. When I then take things over to Collider, I like to work with the people that I know I work well with. When I do the John Campea Show, my first inclination is to work with people that I already know I work well with. Martin Scorsese works a lot with Leonardo DiCaprio because he and Leonardo DiCaprio work really well together. Tim Burton didn't know how to make a movie without Johnny Depp. Not because he didn't know how to make a movie without Johnny Depp, but because him and Johnny Depp had a shorthand. They knew how to work well together. Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Wes Anderson. I mean, like Denis Villeneuve, most directors, like when you find actors that you know that you have a chemistry with and you know how to work with and you know you work well with, it's like anything else. You will quite often want to bring in people that you're familiar with and you know what you're going to get out of them. So yes, this whole thing about like, and James Gunn is not even in the top 5 as far as working with people he's worked with before when it comes to directors. So yeah, it is rather a silly thing. It's a completely silly thing. All right, what's next?
We got...
Oh yeah, right. Somebody in the live chat just mentioned Ryan Coogler. I mean, there's a reason he works with Michael B. Jordan in just about every movie he does, because they work great together. So why not? Anyway.
Tron says WWE's Cody Rhodes has joined the cast of Street Fighter. Never thought I'd see Rhodes versus Reigns Part 3 on the big screen, but here we are. This movie sounds like a train wreck, but I can't wait to see it.
I'll go on the record. I don't even believe this movie's going to get a theatrical release. Like a lot of people keep writing me, say, John, why are you talking about the casting in Street Fighters? I don't really believe this movie's going to see movie theaters. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong. And maybe they'll deliver something super fun. And I hope that they do. But yeah. The fact that you're also putting a couple of like a number of wrestlers in there kind of makes me lose hope in it. But who knows? We'll see. All right. What's next?
CR says, hey, John recently did an interview Hey, John Gunn recently did an interview where he responded to the Indian interviewer's hope of seeing Indian representation in DC projects with the following. This is Gunn's response. I would love to see an Indian actor, but I would also love to have an Indian filmmaker filmmaking collaborators. We at DC Studios think that there are heroes all over this world, and we can focus on, and filmmakers from all over the world that can tell their stories within the DCU. We've already got things started in Korea and Japan and Brazil. Now, I can't help but connect this to Gunn's comments in an EW article where he said there's a project he originally pitched to Zaslav that has not been announced yet and was excluded from the DC slate announcement because he felt it would have been easily ripped off by other companies. Could the big idea having international movies with DC superheroes, like a Katana story set in Japan, or the rumored Korean Huntress?
I mean, the idea is your DC universe is a whole world. If you can build your universe, if you can build your cinematic universe to the point that you are having success, why not then say, meanwhile, over in Bangladesh, meanwhile, in the Ukraine, meanwhile, in Argentina, meanwhile, in the Philippines, like, why would we assume that the only superhero activity that takes place around New York? Wouldn't we assume in this world that they're creating that there would be other heroes in other parts of the world having other stories? Now, again, I think it would be prudent and important to get your universe up and running and set and established and have some success first before you get too far ahead of yourself. But after that, absolutely, they should try developing some stories with other parts of the world and other cultures and other heroes and other stories. I think it's 100% something they should do. Anyway, all right, what's next?
We got Hank Pym. Enough. I go to AMC around 50 times a year, and I've silently suffered these trailers, but last night it started 5 minutes late. A-list ad, 6 trailers, Allstate commercial, Coke and Kidman ad, and then another trailer. Oh, that's weird. That'd be another trailer. 32 minutes in total. Used to be always, or
Used to be 22.
Probably 22 minutes. Yeah.
Well, it used to be less than that before that. The trailer they're talking about after the Nicole Kidman ad,
Oh, yeah.
I'll bet you anything he was at Jurassic Park.
Odyssey. Yeah.
Because they have literally, the reason the Odyssey trailer plays after the Nicole Kidman stuff is because it's literally baked into the Jurassic World file.
Right.
So like once you hit start on Jurassic World, the Odyssey trailer plays.
Right.
So that's why it's happening there. We're going to cover a story on tomorrow's show. And yes, there is going to be a John Campea show tomorrow on the 4th of July. We're going to cover a story tomorrow about, now it's the major trades. Variety actually just put out an article about the fact that AMC and others continuously adding more commercials and trailers is straight up hurting the film industry. We're going to talk about that a little bit. This article, particularly, I'm going to focus on the one that just came out in Variety about how this thing is hurting the film industry. It's hurting movie going. We're going to talk about that. And here, to your point, man, AMC just started telling everybody, look, everybody, look, we're AMC. Oh, we're listening to our fans. We are letting you know now that the movie will start 25 to 30 minutes after the stated showtime. That didn't take long. This viewer just told us that it was 32. John, it's only 2 minutes. No. It's not just 2 minutes. It's 32 minutes. And then you tell us on your website, okay, don't worry, guys. We're going to let you know when the movie starts, okay? It's going to start 20. If it says 7 o'clock, it'll start either at 7:25 to 7:30. It's there. See, we fixed the problem. Except less than 4 days later, I got people writing to me saying, actually, it was more than that. It's unacceptable. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Dan V, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the Street Fighter film cast, but my God, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes as Guile, 50 Cent, good luck. David Desmalkian as Bison, and Andrew Koji as Ryu. They'll be carrying the film. I'd be shocked if it's good.
I have very little doubt it won't be good. Now, the guy from Warrior as Ryu? Yeah, that, because he's number one, a good actor, and number one, great in action. he was totally wasted in Snake Eyes, unfortunately. And by the way, Jason Momoa's in it too. But yeah, I'm looking at how they're casting this, and this is, you know what this is going to be? This is going to be Badlands.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be Badlands all over again. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is just ridiculous, stupid, awesome, fun. I hope it's great. I hope it's great. But did I say Badlands? Sorry, somebody in the live chat just said Borderlands. Right, that's what I meant. Sorry. This is going to be the next Borderlands, I think. I think this is going to be a disaster. And I don't expect to see it hit theaters. But again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's great. I go into every movie I see hoping it's great, and I hope this turns out to be fantastic. I just don't have a lot of belief that it will be. All right. Is there any more?
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going then.
RE Spoilers says, I think a lot of people forget we are the 10%. We pay attention to casting announcements, even 6-hour long ones. Don't remind me. Hall H, when trailers will get released, etc. 90% of people don't do this. Thus, anyone upset with you is silly, especially when someone is watching a movie news show and talks about information that was made public and heavily covered 3 years ago.
Yeah. Again, so in my own comments section, and this is something I hear often, but it just so happened to happen again today. In my own comment section, when somebody was complaining at me that you dropped a spoiler about Mephisto, and then I responded to let them know, hey, Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto was literally reported 3 years ago and has been reported multiple times. And he is publicly listed in the IMDb page, the public page, Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto. This is publicly available information, and we waited until the day after the show came out, but this has all been public information. To which they replied, and people often will, well, I didn't know. You didn't know is not a reason for me to avoid talking about issues that are publicly available pieces of information. Right? I mean, we just got an Odyssey trailer. Odyssey trailer's out right now, right? So I could say, I'm really looking forward to seeing Tom Holland. Why did you spoil that Tom Holland's in it? I'm not spoiling it. It's on the IMDb page. They kind of announced that he was going to be in it. It's publicly available knowledge. Well, I didn't know. I wanted to avoid knowing who was in it so I could be surprised in the movie theater. Good for you. Then why are you watching a movie show? Again, I will do my best. And listen, I, like everybody else, I have tripped over this sometimes. 100% I have. And I will again in the future, I'm sure. But if there is publicly available information that the studios themselves have put out there, that's no longer spoiler territory. And the fact that you haven't seen it doesn't change that for the rest of us. That to us, it's publicly available knowledge, and we're going to talk about it. So, again, if you want to remain completely in the dark, and I respect that, but if you want to remain completely in the dark about any details, about any project that's coming up that you're interested in, then the responsibility and the onus is on you to stay off the internet. It's not on the rest of us to not talk about publicly available information. People keep saying it's different, but it's not. My main comparison to it is this. Last night, the LA Dodgers came back in the bottom of the ninth as Shohei Ohtani crossed the plate to beat, what was it, the White Sox?
White Sox, yeah.
Right? As soon as that game's over, that's publicly available information. Sportsnet's going to talk about it. All the sports YouTube channels are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know yet that they won. You shouldn't talk about it. Guy, it's publicly available information now. It's happened. It's out there. It's public. If you don't want to know who won the Dodger game until you get a chance to watch it, well, then that's your responsibility to stay off Twitter and stay off social media and stay away from the internet, because it's now publicly available information. Everybody's going to talk about it. Anyway, that's just kind of my take on the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it?
We got 3 more.
All right. Let's get through these 3.
Okay. Anonymous says, I can understand them taking Krypto Punch out of the movie because I'm thinking of all the kids going to see the movie. It wouldn't bother me, but it could lots of kids getting upset, or I could see lots of kids getting upset. So it's probably a good thing. It's supposed to be a family movie. Well,
Okay.
family friendly.
Yes, but can I throw in there? Yes, but we show kids Lion King
Yeah.
where Mufasa is murdered. Mufasa is murdered. Why are we okay? Now, look, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to parent their kid, okay? Don't misinterpret me here, okay? But I'm just saying, on a philosophical level, it does make me wonder, like, why are we okay with showing a lot of films that we consider family friendly where literally there is murder? And that's family friendly, but a dog getting hit is not family friendly. How? I'm just asking. I'm just throwing it out there. How does that make sense to us as a species? How does that? And I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying I disagree with you either. I'm just saying it's a really weird thing. How are we okay with murder, death, kill? Bonus points to anybody who knows that reference. How are we okay with murder, death, kill? But, oh no, a dog got hit. That's where we cross the line. I mean, it's really weird for us as a thing. I'm just waiting to see if anybody in the, somebody in the live chat did get it. Ragu got it. It's the Demolition Man reference. Murder, death, kill. All right, what's next?
Final two. What to you is the ultimate mic drop from Superman haters? Opening weekend box office, high Rotten Tomato score. Like at one point, we can without a doubt say this movie's a success, and your argument is invalid.
To me, it's the response to the movie. Because remember, to me, it's the box office is not what they're all that concerned about. Not with this first movie. The mission at hand for Superman is to get rid of the obstacles and win the audience back. The audience that got burned and abandoned DC over the course of the DCEU. That's the job of this movie. That's the assignment. That's the mission. Whatever money it does or doesn't make, would they rather make more? Absolutely. But is it that important? No, not compared to the actual mission, which is win the audience back. You win the audience back, whatever money you lose on Superman, you'll get back with later movies. But if you don't win the audience back, whatever money you make on Superman, you're going to lose in future movies. Mm-hmm. The mission is win the audience. That's the mission. Listen, I guarantee you this. I 100% guarantee you. If you go into James Gunn and Peter Safran's office right now and say you came from the future and you say you got one of two outcomes. Superman makes $1 billion but has a 49% critic score, or Superman makes $650 million and has a 91% critic score. I guarantee you, no question, no hesitation, no pause. Their answer is immediately $650 million with a 91% critic rating. Easily, no doubt. Because that's the assignment. That's the mission. Setting up for future success is what the main goal is with this movie. That's the main goal. Would they like to have a 91% critic rating and $900 million? Absolutely. Look, anybody who is against this movie, if it has a high critic rating and it makes a lot of money, they're still going to find a way or a reason to say it's a failure. It doesn't matter, right? There's no getting around it. So that doesn't really matter. But 100%, if you ask them what the assignment is, higher critic score or higher box office, they're going to say critic score. Because once again, whatever money you lose on this with a high critic score and a high winning the audience back, you'll make that money back up with future movies. but you can make $1 billion on this movie. If you didn't win the fans back with it, you're going to lose that money on future movies. So that's the number one potential. Anyway. All right. Was that the last one?
Final one right here.
All right.
Hey, John, do you think the massive marketing for Superman is because WB has so much confidence in the film or because the DCU has such a stigma?
If you did not believe in this film, you're trying to hide it.
Right.
They're putting this much behind it because they believe in it. I mean, we've seen it happen many times. You can tell when a movie does not believe in a film. You can tell. It's obvious. They may be right and they may be wrong, but they clearly believe in this film. They may be wrong to believe in it, but they believe in it. If you don't believe in this film, you don't do this Amazon fan screening where you're going to let literally tens and tens and tens of thousands of fans see this movie days before opening day and let their word of mouth get out about it. No chance in hell you do that. Again, they may think we're going to love it and maybe we won't, but they at least think we're going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
They think that. They could be right, they could be wrong, but that's what they think. So we'll see what happens there. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Hey, big special thank you to all of you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And everybody involved with the show, thanks you guys so very much for your support. Just a heads up, tomorrow is the 4th of July, and I'm giving the rest of the crew the day off, but I will still be here. I will be here. Because I already had my 4th of July. I had Canada Day. But I will be here, guys, tomorrow to talk about movies with you. So if you guys have some time before the rest of your festivities tomorrow, come on by and join me, and we'll hang out and talk about movies and our favorite things in the world. All right, so for Robert Meyer Burnett, who's on his way home, of course, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
My name's John Campea, and until tomorrow, my friends, bye-bye.